Hi, and welcome to yet another episode of Shift Podcast, where we talk about getting out of our comfort zones and really getting over our own BS to reach our potential and do some amazing things. My name is Elena Agargimova. I'm your host for this. Today, I'm actually really excited to talk to somebody who knows a lot about getting out of a comfort zone, Saad Ansari, who is a serial entrepreneur. His most recent venture is Xpence, where he's founded this platform for banking for entrepreneurs. So essentially, it's the first banking alternative designed for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. And I'm sure he'll tell us a little bit more about it. But Saad, welcome.
Hey, Elena, thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure and honor to be on your podcast. Thank you.
You know, Saad, I've always, we've known each other for a few years now, and I've always looked up to you in the sense of you have so much resilience and stamina for the world of entrepreneurship. Being a newbie in this world, just for me, like just a couple of years, but you have such a history of just starting things and really going after things. So talk to me a little bit about, how did you get the entrepreneurship bug, like even prior to Xpence, which we'll get into, but what was it that inspired you to say, you know what, I don't really want to do the corporate world, I'm just going to do my thing?
Well, that's where to begin. I think, Elena, I never really had a plan. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So, when I was at school, I pursued what I enjoyed rather than doing things as a means to an end. So, I've had a few really good teachers in my life that that even to this day, almost 25 years later, I can still remember them. I still remember their classes and conversations with them. I had a brilliant physics teacher, two really brilliant physics teachers, and a really great mathematics teacher at school. And the way that they taught us and the way that they conducted themselves in the class, it was just curiosity. I just continued. I loved the subjects. My housemaster, I went to boarding school in England. Not only was he my housemaster, but he was also my physics teacher. My form tutor was also a physics teacher. So they created this curiosity. And until today, I'm very passionate about physics. And when I was, so if you know how the English school system works, when you're in the sixth form, when you're doing your A-levels, you start applying for universities, you do the UCAS forms, and you fill in the subjects you want to go and study and which universities you want to go to and things. And I thought, I want to become a banker. I want to make lots of money and stuff. And I filled out my UCAS form, submitted it, and started to get, responses back from the universities, acceptance, declines, etc. And I remember having a chat with my housemaster over Christmas. And he said, "What are you doing? Why do you want to become a banker? It's such a bore, it's so boring." And he said that, you're going to spend 3-4 years at university studying this subject. Why don't you do something you're passionate about? You need to spend, these next 4 years. It's not just about trying to learn something because you want a job. And then he actually showed me stats that where most of the people going into investment banking have mathematics backgrounds, physics backgrounds. And I think at that time, there were two physicists who had created some algorithm that was all the talk in London, in the city at the time. And so I ended up, I think I was the first student in my school that actually had their UCAS form recanted and resent a new UCAS form. It's hardly ever done. And then I applied to do physics. And my housemaster was had read physics at Manchester. He contacted his department head, or his former tutor, who was the department head of physics at Manchester, said, "Look, one of my students wants to come and do physics." And so I ended up doing a subject that I was very, very passionate about, with no idea what I'm going to do. Right. So all my friends are saying, "Oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that." I had absolutely no idea. And in my final year, I'd never taken any modules outside of the School of Physics. So everything was, any optional extras were all within the School of Physics. And in the last year, in the last semester, one of my friends said, look, in order to bump up your grade, let's go and find the easiest subject to do and do that option, even if it's outside of the school. So Manchester had started what they called the Manchester Enterprise Centre. And it was so they had set up a master's in entrepreneurship for science or STEM-based graduates to set up businesses through the Manchester Incubation Centre. It was a way for scientists not to get ripped off by large firms so that they could actually set up their own things. So the university could incubate businesses. So we went on one of their 101 entrepreneurship courses, and I just loved it. I just thought it was incredible. And then I applied to do a master's. So I was at the final year of my bachelor's, and I had about a 4-month break between the bachelor's and beginning the master's, and I was sitting around in Manchester doing absolutely nothing. And so I said, okay, you know what, I'll go back to Saudi Arabia. And when I was in Saudi, I got a part-time or summer job teaching English. And we just, at one point, we thought, hey, you know what, this is a really good business idea. Let's do this. Let's go. And this is corporate training. This wasn't sort of teaching kids English. This was teaching corporate employees. And we decided to set up a rival training company. And when I mean we, it was my older brother. And I wrote back to the admissions tutor at the Enterprise Center, said, hey, look, I've got this opportunity. Can you defer my entry for a year? Just if this thing, I just want to try this out. And obviously, because it's entrepreneurship and they were supporting that. And I never ended up going back. And I just kind of went from there. I think before that, I'd done little things like at boarding school, there's a lot of contraband. So we would sell, I'm not talking about drugs and things, but I'm talking about cigarettes. I'm talking about, we used to, at the time, the pound against the Saudi riyal, things were so much cheaper in Saudi Arabia. So, I would be flogging designer T-shirts and things like that. So, but that's more like your little trading stuff. But, I still think you need a kind of you still need an entrepreneurial streak to do that. You're looking at the supply and demand, and I can get it cheaper here. And cigarettes used to always be the best. I think we'd buy a carton of cigarettes for 30 reals at the time, when one pack within that cigarette was selling for £5. I'll probably, I hope that the statute of limitations is over. That was about 25 years ago. But yeah, there was little stuff like that. But that, the training company we set up actually was the first proper venture that taught me so much. And look, I had no idea what a balance sheet was, what a business plan was, anything like this. All we did was we did a back of the napkin calculation. We said, hey, there are this many employees in the class. This is what it costs. This is how much a teacher costs to get the wages for a teacher, the materials. Hey, you know what? We're making a profit. And if we multiply this by X number of classes, at one point we became one of the biggest training companies in Saudi Arabia. We were putting through over 1,000 sponsored employees through our training company at any one time. We worked with Saudi Aramco. I think to date, that is probably, I can remember when Saudi Aramco issued their first $1 million purchase order to us. It was at the time when we still had BlackBerry Messenger. There was no WhatsApp, and I, was messaging my parents to say, oh, it was if you're a Saudi business to get a contract from Saudi Aramco, it is like I don't know, it would be the same as if you were in England and you got a warrant for the Queen for your business. That is what Saudi Aramco was for us. And look, at arguably the largest company in the world. If you're doing business for them, then you must be doing something right.
Absolutely.
we went from there. We worked with the Ministry of Defense. We worked with the Royal Saudi Air Force, the Navy. We did a lot of awesome stuff. We did a lot of first to markets in the kingdom. And my journey just started there, and I haven't really looked back. And I think each of these experiences taught me a lot, and I'm trying not to repeat them in my current venture.
Yeah, I bet. You know what I love? I mean, you said so many interesting things, but one of the things that I think an audience would be interested to kind of take away is the fact that you didn't know, like you didn't know what you wanted to do. And I think there's so much pressure these days that, you know, for either whenever, if you're just a student studying or if you're trying to start a business, that you have to have it figured out. And I think it's ridiculous. And sometimes you don't know. And by being curious, this is how you actually, open up doors, and this is how you start having conversations. And you know me, and I'm always like huge on conversations. I'm like, if you don't know, go talk to people. Like, just talk to somebody. Sure. We don't know what we don't know. Like, and I mean, I had the similar story where I had no idea what I was doing. And then in college they would ask you like, well, what do you want to be? I'm like, I have no idea what I'm having for dinner tonight. You want me to figure out my whole life right now and choose a major and all that? So we could do better, I think, as a society, just letting people be okay with not having a plan. Like, no need for a plan, but be curious. And that's exactly
Sure.
what you've done, is your curiosity took you that way, and just, looking for opportunities that might be interesting to you. And I think that's important. I think we often go for things that are just not, we just go for them because we feel like we should, or because somebody's pushing us towards that, but it's not really where our heart's at.
Of course,
so,
yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious. So you've mentioned this, actually. So there's a lot of things that you've learned, and you try not to make the same mistakes. So if anybody's listening who is, going into entrepreneurship, what are the, 3 biggest lessons you've learned, you would say, in this last, few years, or many, it's been many years, but.
Oh, I think, Elena, there've been hundreds of lessons, and it's kind of hard to try to pick out the 3. I think maybe if I look at where I am right now and the situation that I'm in today, so business plans, right? So traditionally, we've always been told, write a business plan, and you write this like 90-page document, and you're going to plan out everything, and this is what we're going to do. So I did exactly that. When did I start that business? 2005. So 16 years ago. I did that. I sat down and I wrote out a business plan and did everything. And I would go and walk around with this business plan and try to find investors. I wouldn't recommend that to anyone today. I would say experiment. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear or not, but I would just experiment the heck out of it. Right. A plan is great. I think a vision and a vague notion. It's like, I don't know, if you're going to drive from the East Coast to the West Coast, you need to get to the West Coast, and you vaguely know that you need to go in that direction. Now, how you're going to get there and whether you're going to stop somewhere, you don't know what's going to happen. And I think that is really important. I think that, people, I think this is where, like, when I hear about, like, people say, oh, MBAs are really crap if you're doing, they're useless for entrepreneurs, and I would never hire an MBA. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Manchester's MBA was quite different, at least for me it was. But sometimes this, like, you have to do a business plan, and this is where I found, like, some lecturers at odds with one another, that some of the guys were like, oh no, you don't need a business plan, use something like the business model canvas, and others are, no, we need to see that 60-page business plan. So the first thing is I would say, throw the business plan in the trash, have a vision, and experiment your way there, right? Keep on tweaking the model. If things don't work, and this is something that I am constantly telling our team, look, we don't need to perfect things. If it doesn't work, we'll find another way to do it. If it works, now let's find what within this works, what doesn't work, let's tweak this, and keep tweaking the thing until you get it working right. So that would be one thing. Yeah. I think the other thing is, I think a lot of personal life events over the last 15 years, I have a very different outlook on certain things. I know that that I was thinking about this earlier. So there's an episode of Silicon Valley. I don't know if you watched the sitcom, but in one of these episodes, Richard, who's the protagonist of the show, is introducing a bunch of fellow entrepreneurs, and he says, I forgot what the guy's name is, but let's call him Andrew. And he says, you know what, Andrew is a gay Christian, and everyone is aghast, and Richard thinks he's just outed this gay entrepreneur, but actually it's that he called him a Christian, and that how religion plays no role. But for me, I think one of the important things has been, I think in Islam, there's two concepts, one of sabr, which is patience, and one of shukr, which is being grateful, being humble. And I think that the sabr thing keeps me going, right? That when things are not going your way, right? That, you need to be patient. You don't know what's in store. Sometimes there are things that are completely out of your control. And if you spend your time worrying about it, you'll drive yourself nuts. Now, it's easier said than done. I do drive myself crazy. I had a lot more hair than this, I think, the last time we met. But that definitely, I think there's a bit more sort of, I'm trying to, adapting those philosophies. I think you need to have something to believe in, right? So for me, it might be my religion. For someone else, it could be tennis, for example, right? You find whatever makes it, but you need to have that thing that helps you. There needs to be that release valve somewhere. And I think, and then when we talk about shukr, which is being grateful, being thankful, Allah says that, if you're grateful, I'll give you more. And that's something that I try to practice, to be thankful for what it is. And look, we always, even in, when you talk, when, entrepreneurs are, you might read a book about someone else's life and they talk about being humble. I think that is extremely important, to be grateful and humble. It doesn't have to be driven by your belief in any religion. Just think as a human being, it's a good approach to life. So I think that's probably my second one. And then the third one is probably, I think with the third one, it would be a toss up between being persistent, but I think that maybe falls under patience, or it's having the right team, right? That you're not doing it on your own. You have to have the right people around you. You're only as good as the people. Like they say, ideas are easy, execution is difficult. You need to have the right team to be able to execute. If we go back to what I was saying about being thankful and humble, unfortunately, I find a lot of founders, or not even just founders, but managers within businesses and things, they are intimidated by team members that might be smarter than them. They always want to be the smartest person in the room. I don't really care anymore, right? I have an objective to fulfill. And you know what? If the team is, if I've got smart people on my team, then great. I mean, that's how it's going to happen. I'm the conductor. I'm orchestrating these guys, right? My job is to make sure to get the best out of them and to deliver, and then to be grateful to them, to give them the credit for what they've done. I think that these are probably, because these are things that are affecting me right now. I think maybe if you asked me 6 months ago, I might have given you 3 different things, but this is what I'm experiencing within my own company as we're growing and we're bringing more people on, and we're trying to fix processes within the business. These are the kind of things that I would advise today to anybody starting up.
No, I think these are spot on. I think the whole business plan, definitely, there's no, I mean, there's no one way to do business. And yes, you can get some ideas and thoughts through, kind of formal education, but nothing beats just executing, because you really don't know. we don't know what we don't know. It's like my favorite thing. Like, we don't know what, if we just accept the fact that we don't know what we don't know, then it will help us be a little bit more curious and just going for experimentation versus trying to plan everything out. And absolutely, patience, gratitude, just being humble is definitely spot on. Environment matters. And this is what I kind of want to also touch base on is when it comes to environment, it's not only just about the team members, that's one aspect, but I'm just curious, because I struggle with this, and I think we all do as entrepreneurs, but you're not always going to be able to express certain concerns to your team members, right? So, what do you think about having, a circle of people that you can just vent to, basically? How has that been for you? And have you been able to create that circle, like just, your personal circle of friends or family members? How has that been for you?
Yeah, look, friends and family are a little bit weird when it comes to this thing because they can't really understand what you're going through. Some friends might say, well, why are you doing this? Why don't you just get a 9-to-5 job? They don't understand what you're trying to achieve and stuff. I think I'm lucky in that everyone in my family is an entrepreneur or at some point has been an entrepreneur. So they all understand what the trials and tribulations of starting up and running your own companies. But I think I have been very lucky that my younger brother who is a co-founder in the business, has always been there. So I speak to him. He's in Riyadh at the moment, but I speak to him every night. I will tell him all the shit that's going on. I will, and we sometimes it's just to hear my own thoughts, right? And then we will always reassure one another. So even if that things are going bad, but just to hear, oh, it'll be okay, inshallah, things will work out. It's always good to hear that. And then I think, over the last few years, the network that I've been building, people like yourself, you need to have people that understand, can empathize with you, right? And I think, going back, empathy is a really powerful skill. I think all entrepreneurs should have that. Otherwise, how do you build something for a customer if you can't empathize with the customer? But if you have that, and then it works throughout, whether it's your team that you're hiring, if you want to understand what's going on with your team, do you have empathy? I've within the sort of startup community, I've met a few really good people that I know that, no matter what time it is, I can always call, meet and stuff. It is quite a lonely thing, though. There's not that many people you can go and vent these frustrations to. Plus, you don't want too many people to know what's happening. Yeah. But I also think within your own team, you should have that much trust that you can share pretty much 99% of what's going on. Maybe not tell them that, oh, you know what, we're about to burn all our money and there's no more runway and I'm going to have to say ma salama in a little bit. But so I have some very, I'm grateful to have some very good people that I'm able to speak to.
That's great. And so let's just shift gears, and I want to talk to you a little bit about Xpence. So, because that's something, it's something so innovative, and it's a big space. It's an upcoming space, and it's just, I just find it fascinating as a concept on its own. But talk to me a little bit about Xpence. Tell our audience, what does it mean to create something like Xpence? What does it do? What's the mission for it? What's the vision for it?
Right. I think from the vision perspective, we want to build a platform that empowers entrepreneurs. So I am very passionate about entrepreneurship. I enjoy sessions like this to be able to speak to people about it, because I think that one of the ways that people can if to get out of poverty, to really do something, is to set up your own business, and to be able to, I think withholding knowledge is a crime. I think we should all share. Maybe one day I'll become a teacher, but I definitely think that to be able to share this knowledge. And so I see Xpence becoming a platform where entrepreneur or anybody that wants to start a business can come to our platform. They can learn from the platform. They can start up their business within the platform, and they can get supported. So just to give you an idea, like and I'm talking about the UAE now, it might be different in other parts of the world. So typically, company opens a bank account and they get an RM, a relationship manager. The relationship manager's job really is either to handle problems or to sell the bank's products, sell credit facilities and things like that. So we are going to kind of change that, and we're not going to give you an RM. We're going to give you a BM, which is going to be a business mentor. So we want to be able to help you when you want to ask a question about growth, or you want to ask a question about hiring, that there's someone there to support you. What we are building today is a banking alternative. So from a regulatory perspective, we're not allowed to call ourselves a bank, and we're not going to be a bank. We're just providing banking services via a partner bank in each market. And effectively what we've done is we've created a platform. It's all branded for Xpence, so you don't actually have any interaction with the underlying bank underneath. We just use that bank for infrastructure. Because they're licensed entities, they're licensed to hold money. We deposit all the funds into there. So if you're familiar with this space, it's how PayPal started. It was off the back of Silicon Valley Bank, and a lot of others do that. So you'll hear of, I think in the US, you've got things like Novo, Bento Box, and there's a few others, and those are on the SME side. And then you've got Chime, and you've got Dave, and a few others that are on the retail side. And all of these guys work with what you call BIN sponsors, custodian banks, to hold their funds, to give them access to the payment rails, but they provide a whole different experience. And if I go back to my first company, remember when our first client asked us to send them an invoice? I'm 24 years old at the time. Don't even know what an invoice is. Don't know what an invoice looks like. And I think we had like 56K dial-up modem at the time. And, I was, going on Google, trying to get a template for an invoice. So we've built that all for you. It's all in the application, in the platform. You could start today, download the app and start issuing invoices. It's all branded for you. There's a payment gateway in it. And we're just trying to make it easier to start business. Mm-hmm. And then it said eventually, look, most businesses will die within the first 5 years. And the number one reason for it is cash flow management, right? And I think my biggest lesson from my first business was managing cash flow. I think that is one of the things, I think towards the end, and one of the reasons why I left, why I exited that business was because my entire day life was just around ensuring that we are always cash flow positive. I couldn't focus on growing the business. I couldn't focus on introducing new products or anything like that, just ensuring we're cash flow positive. And it just got very tiring. And so this is what we want to do with Xpence. We want to take a lot of that headache away of managing your finances, automating it, using, cutting edge tech to remove at least 3 or 4 hours of your week of doing your expenses and all that kind of stuff, and just getting you from day one sort of banking, doing your finances properly for the business.
Mm-hmm. No, that's brilliant. I think that's that would be so helpful. I mean, just luckily I have Yvonne, who's my business partner, who's brilliant at these things, but otherwise, I mean, and even we need these sort of things. But I think that's solving a real problem, because that is a big hurdle to get over as a startup, as a small business, is all these things. And you're right. It's and I think that the misconception people have is that entrepreneurs, they should have it all figured out, and we actually don't know anything. we just know we want to solve something. We're excited about something, but we don't always know the actual step-by-step process, the process, the structure of, particularly on the finance side. So, and I love it that you're building a community out of it, which is really cool. So.
Exactly. And I think, your question about where do you go, right? That's one of the elements of this. So this is why we're talking about, we talk about Xpences. Our tagline is empowering entrepreneurs, right? It's a platform to launch and scale your business. We're not saying, hey, you know what? Our tagline used to be banking entrepreneurs. And as our sort of vision of the product has changed and what we want to do, it is empowering entrepreneurs, right? It's empowering you to scale, launch your business. And that community becomes an essential part, because people are always scared of asking stupid questions, but actually, you know what? There's 100 other guys out there that have the same question to ask, So look, in the UAE, like one of the issues you have is, do I set up in a free zone or do I go on the mainland? If I'm going to go in the free zone, which free zone should I go for? Mm-hmm. What type of license? And everybody has this question, right? So why not create a community where I can ask these questions? Or, yesterday I was asking one of my colleagues, we want someone to make a little video for us. So where can we go to find these people? And the one side of Xpence will turn Xpence into a marketplace so that our users can sell services to one another. So, hey, I know that you are doing stuff in performance management and, talent management. Hey, you're on the platform, I can connect with you. Or you're looking for someone that does web design and logo design. There's someone on the platform. So we also want you guys to do business with one another as well. Often getting that first contract and getting those reference points are some of the hardest things to do. And when you get that one reference point, then it typically snowballs. So these are all, and you can see behind me, I mean, this is our road mapping and planning and stuff. And there's so much we'd like to do. And we've got some great investors. We've got a great team. And as long as they have faith in that vision and that we're delivering it, inshallah, I hope we're able to fulfill that and do much more.
Yeah. No, listen, collaboration is key. And I think that's what you're going to be sort of offering through Xpence. And I love that part, because it's that's the future. I mean, I think the gone are the days where we do these like silos or the big companies. I think it's really time for small businesses, startups. I really think that collaboration in this space is going to drive a lot of the future of world and business forward, to be honest. So I'm really optimistic about it. So I think it's the right time. It's the right platform, the right approach. So I'm really, really excited. We're definitely going to be on board with it. So sign me up. Glad to have you. Definitely. For sure. Where can people follow you? Where can they find you? Where can they learn more? And particularly those that are based in the Middle East.
Look, I'm on LinkedIn. Always happy to connect with people. I'm not really big on social media myself, and I have a very sort of there is a very hard line between what I do in stuff like Instagram compared to what I would do in LinkedIn. I try to keep things professional. I think maybe one of the things that I need to start to do is maybe build some more content myself. So I'm really glad you invited me on this. This might be one of my first things that I can, start to do. I'm happy to connect with anyone on LinkedIn. We're based in the DIFC, which is the heart of the financial center of the United Arab Emirates, in their new fintech innovation hub. So, and I'm always, anybody that wants to start a business and they just want to have a chat. I mean, if there's even one little bit that I can help them with, I'm always happy to have give advice and stuff. Or at least share my story, and people can learn from that. I'm yet to do something. I need to let's see when let's try to turn Xpence into a unicorn and we can write a book.
For sure. And it's interesting, you said you're like, maybe one day I'll be a teacher, but you are already a teacher, in fact. So just because of what you just said, and as long as I've known you, we're always like this mentor person. You're always open to have chats with people, to offer some, some guidance, just to be like a soundboard for others. So you are a teacher, just not officially, but you are in my book. I don't know.
Thank you.
So, and I think you can write a hell of a book. Honestly, I really, really do. I think that this conversation is just the beginning of many more that we're going to have about your journey and how it's going to turn out. And I'm really, really excited for you. And I will share the Xpence website in case and the social media. I know you guys have a social media for Xpence as well, so I'll share that. So in case people want to connect and just stay on top of the journey. And I think
sure. I mean, we do a lot of our. I think in terms of like if people want to connect with Xpence, most of the stuff is on Instagram. We are working on our community page right now, so I think in the upcoming couple of months that we're going to sort of boost the online presence of Xpence and start to create that community. So at the moment, we run a community in Bahrain and a WhatsApp group, but we want to formalize that. And I think the community, just as much as we want to give to our users, we actually want to take a lot back from them as well. So we have made a lot of assumptions, and we were talking about experiments, and you talk about lean methodology and stuff. So we made our initial assumptions when we're building our product, and we have our product roadmap. I think what we want to see as we as we start to onboard customers and launch officially in the market, that the development is customer led. So we need to get that the voice of the customer needs to be ingrained within the company, not just simply us saying, hey, you know what, we think that this will be good. I think because we're building a product for entrepreneurs, and my CTO, my other co-founders have all been entrepreneurs, and it doesn't matter whether they started in the UK or they started in Lithuania or Saudi Arabia. We all face the same problems, right? The problems are the same across the market. We face the same things. So at least we have this much confidence in the product that we're building, that they are the right things for entrepreneurs. And then I think probably, within the next few months, we'll really start letting the community decide, what products, what features should be built next. Are there things on our roadmap that, or are there things missing from our roadmap? So we really want the customer to drive the development of the thing. And we're working on some things where maybe there'll be some ownership for the first few customers, but let's see how that goes.
Nice. Well, I wish you the best of luck. I'm looking forward to watching this journey and just seeing how it will unravel. Super exciting. Cool. And I love your setup. I love the setup, and this is like this is what we aim for, right? Is to have I love this whole space behind you.
Yeah, well, look, you can have a look. This is our office here. It's so basically at the moment we're taking a flexible approach to work. So Thursdays is actually everyone works from home. Nice. So I came in today, but we're doing so. We in sort of March we started transitioning back from working from home to coming back to the office. We said, okay, we'll do a day a week, and then we moved up to 2 days a week. We're going to try to do 3 days. The majority of the team are vaccinated. So then, and you know what, we're in this like hub, and there's just like fintech after fintech over here. Yeah. And I think we're probably the only ones that are practicing this. Most of them are full every day. So we've really, I think all credit to the UAE government on how they managed the whole pandemic, or at least within the United Arab Emirates, that we're back to normal, right? I mean, you can go to the cinema, you can go to a bar, you can go to a club, you can go to a restaurant. Yes, we have to wear masks, but majority of the population is now vaccinated, and we're back to normal. And as much as we've I think Microsoft with Teams did a fantastic job to let us work across the world. Elena, we have grown from 5 people at the beginning of the pandemic, and we're at 30. And of those people that have been hired, I've only met 3 of them in person.
Oh, wow.
Right? Everyone's been interviewed online. And we've got guys in Moscow, we've got people in Belarus, in Kiev, in Karachi, in Delhi, and we've never met them before. Yeah. So, but to be able to collaborate with the team in person. So not all of our team is here today, unfortunately. We're in Dubai, we're only 7. The rest of the team is kind of dotted around the world. And I can't wait till the day that we all meet in one place. But just having brainstorming sessions together, it's so much more productive in person than there's, and we get fatigued, right? I mean, you have team meeting after team meeting, Zoom as well, and whatever else it might be. It just gets, there's a point where it's enough. And then you don't know, like if you've got 10 people in the meeting, are they all switched on, or is this person on mute and actually doing something else? So you never know.
Nothing beats that face-to-face and just having that whiteboard in front of you and just like putting down ideas and thoughts and sharing. The physical presence of somebody it really has an impact for sure. I'm definitely excited to also be back in Dubai and to be able to get together with my team as well and to be able to do things like that. The final part is that I don't know if you saw it, but Google recently, they released kind of like an alternative, the next level of Zoom. So it's not Zoom, but it's like a glass. So it's like basically like, imagine if we're sitting kind of, there's a glass in front of us and we can see each other. So it's not Zoom, but it's like almost as if you're there in person. It's a 3D visual of somebody. And apparently they've been developing this for a couple of years now. But now they're finally kind of coming out with it. I just read it a couple of days ago about it. So I'm really interested to see if that makes a difference, because I think this whole virtual world is definitely going to stick around and it's going to grow and it's going to make it even more interpersonal. Nothing beats physical yet, but maybe it will. Maybe something else like this Google thing might actually.
I mean, look, I think for since the human race has started, it has always been very physical. I don't. Look, I'm not predicting. I can't predict what happens in the future. But look, when modern research says that when a baby is born, that within we're talking about seconds or minutes of the baby being born, that you need to have that skin to skin contact, right? Because that's the way that we are. For some people, the way we're created, or for others, the way we're evolved, right? So it depends on your school of thought. But right, so that's what modern day science is teaching us. We as creatures, we crave that contact. So I think that there will be flexible ways of working. I think there will be different ways that we interact with one another. But nothing, I think. Nothing will replace that human contact. Now, in the interesting thing, like in what we're building right now, we're trying to remove human contact from banking, right? And I think when you look at the current generation and the next generation of people, they have a phobia of speaking on the phone, right? They'd rather text and things like that. Yeah. So I still think that there's an element that will require. I remember speaking to a lady last year about Xpence, and having an interview, and she's probably in her 30s or something, and she just said, I could never trust anyone with my money if I never met them, if there wasn't a place that I could go to. Whereas, and I was quite shocked hearing it from her generation, right? But I could imagine my father's generation saying that, but I wouldn't imagine millennials and Gen Z or whatever. So I think in certain areas we can remove it, but nothing replaces brainstorming in person with your colleagues. Or for now, let's see absolutely. What these virtual sort of holographic things might, how that might change things.
Yeah. Yep. Listen, people were against the iPhone, and now or just the smartphone, let's say, whichever one you use, if it's Android or iPhone, but it's, now it's like normal life, right? Like we can't live without it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see how it all turns out. But there is something to be said about the benefit of technology, but then having that community, having that support, human support is definitely, it has to stay. It has to stay. I don't know in what capacity, but it has to stay, because you're absolutely right. It's innate in us to have human interactions.
Our long-term vision of how we will handle that. We're working on something which there will be a physical element within Xpence. It will not be a branch, but we're working on something. I want to keep it under wraps until we actually do it. But we will still have, if people require a physical human element, it will be there. And we actually think that the experience that we're looking to provide on that the human element side of it will be a radical departure from what we experience today within financial services. And we think that it could actually be the way that will be great for customer acquisition and retention.
That's good. That's amazing. Well, looking forward to that as well. Curious what you have in store. Listen, thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's the end of the week. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks for taking the time and sharing your story with us. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, inshallah. Well, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for having me. Great to catch up as always. And it was great to be able to share a little bit of my experience. And I hope people will gain some benefit from it. So thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely.